So hopefully everybody has their kits, and in their kits, hopefully they have the pizza pan, some seashells, the rope, which should look like this, a couple of little acrylic ocean creatures, a few of the like calendar pictures, and then foam brushes. Hopefully you have two. I put two in there because we'll be doing one with the Mod Podge and one with the paint. So that's why you got two. And then hot glue sticks, the stencil, and then the Mod Podge is the white. And then a variation of the blue is your paint. And then hopefully everybody has some scissors. You'll need scissors, a hot glue gun, and then optional like sand or salt or something to give your pan kind of a 3D look. This one I had blue sand that I put on there. I don't know that you can't really tell, but it kind of gives it the ocean part a little bit of texture. And then on this one, I put salt. And again, it just kind of gives it a little bit of texture. So, okay. So first off, we are going to take our pizza pan and we're just going to paint the outer edge. So basically this raised bit, and then we're going to go in a little bit. You don't need to paint like the whole thing because a lot of it's going to be covered by the picture and the rope. But I like to do just like a little bit in there. So the raised edge and then maybe like a ½ an inch down onto the flat part. So like a little bit more than 1.5. So we're just going to take our paint and start painting around it. It might take a couple of coats. I want to say I did the darker one, obviously is probably going to only take maybe 1 or 2. I think if you have the lighter one, the seafoam one, it'll probably take like 3 layers. So right now we're just going to take our paint and we're just going to start painting. And if you get a little bit on the back, it's okay because the back's not really going to get shown. So if it gets on there a little bit, that's perfectly fine. And then I'm going to give it a chance to kind of dry before I start my next layer, just because usually when you let it dry, you can get the layers to kind of adhere a little bit better. So I'm going to just kind of wait a few minutes to let it dry so I can start my next layer, because I'm very impatient, but it's better when you wait and let it dry a little bit before you start the next layer. So we're just going to wait for it to dry. While we're waiting for it to dry so we can do another layer, hopefully you guys got a few different of the beach pictures. You're basically going to choose which one you want. I'm choosing this one, but you should have like an assortment. So you're just going to kind of like figure out which one that you want. So you can do that while we're waiting. Okay, so this is my second layer, and I have kind of the slightly darker paint, so I think it's okay, but I'm noticing one part that still might need like another touch up, so I might go and get it one more time with the paint just so that it's nice and even. You can't really tell on the video, I don't think. but there, you can just see a little bit of the pizza pan at one part. So I might hit it one more time just to make sure. But like I said, if you have the darker color, it's gonna turn out a lot better or a lot faster. But I'm gonna give this a little bit more time to dry, just so that we can start the next part. But yeah, I think down here, I'm gonna need to paint it one more time, but we'll give it a minute. And then while we're waiting for it to dry, I'm going to start cutting, and hopefully not get paint all over it like I just did. Okay, so how I did the cutting was, of course, the first time I did it, it was before I started painting it, but I just kind of look and I start with just by kind of taking the corners off. So we're just gonna kind of do, let me move this out of the way first. Out of the way. So we're just gonna kind of do like a rounded edge. And then you don't need to worry about this little hole up there. The rope will hide it. Or if the rope doesn't hide it, we can use some of our seashells or the little foam balls to kind of hide it. So if you kind of make a mistake on cutting it, you don't have to worry because we have a lot of little things that we can kind of use to fix that. So basically each side, I'm just going to kind of round out the edge just so it'll fit in my pan a little bit better. And you kind of want to determine when you're doing that, like what parts like you want more. So like if you wanted it up a little higher, or down a little bit lower, you kind of just need to make that decision, what you want more of. I mean, it fits in there pretty well. So, I mean, there's not too much, but if you notice mine, it's still a little bit too big. So I'm just going to basically keep cutting until I feel like it'll fit inside this bottom part really nicely. So let's cut a little bit more off. An easier thing would have been if I had remembered that I did it before last time, where I actually cut before I started painting, so you can kind of use the pizza pan as a guide before you actually start cutting. And then that makes it a little easier so you don't have to eyeball it as much. But hindsight and all that. So we're going to do it the hard way. So when you feel like you have enough of it off, and again, it doesn't have to be quite perfect because some of it's going to be hidden by the rope. Of course, it would be a little easier if the paint wasn't still drying. I don't really want to ruin my paint job. Now it's the right size, but now I've got to kind of take it out a little bit. Kind of look and see which part of the paint I messed up a little bit. It's not too bad. I didn't mess it up too bad. It's just kind of a little bit of paint. I'm just kind of fixing it up a little bit. Just any kind of mistakes that I see that need to be painted on again. Like I said, inside the pizza pan, we don't have to worry as much because it'll basically mostly all be hidden by our picture and then also by the rope. But I just like to make sure that just in case a little bit of it shows through, we don't have to worry about it. So I'm gonna go right here a little bit. Okay. So now I'm really gonna let it dry. So once we're waiting for it to dry, the next part is we're going to put Mod Podge down. We're gonna put it basically the entire bottom part. So we need to wait for this to dry like all the way because the paint's kind of still tacky, especially because I just kind of fixed it. So we're gonna wait a little bit for it to completely dry so that we can start putting the Mod Podge on it. Okay, so now we're gonna go to the next part where we're going to Mod Podge the picture onto our pizza pan. So I'm just going to check again that it's like not too much overhang. So right here, no, I think it's okay. Like I said, the rope will kind of hide some of the imperfections. We just don't want it to kind of go over onto this top part. Like it's okay if it kind of goes up the sides a little because again, the rope's going to hide it. But we don't want it to kind of overhang up onto this lip. So I don't really, I think right here, I'll just kind of cut off a little piece to make sure. And then I think that one's low enough. That one's low enough. Okay. So I'm good, I think, with it. So once we're sure that it's going to fit well, mine's still a little bit wet, like in these corners. So I'm just going to try to avoid them as much as I can. Because like I said, I'm impatient. But if you want to wait until it's completely dry, because yours isn't dry enough yet, go ahead. But we're going to start Mod Podging. So, and then for this part, I gave you a lot of Mod Podge, and you might think, oh, it's probably too much. It's not. You'll probably use most of it because you want to make sure you have a really good coat on here, just to make sure it sticks and that it's nice and flat. So we're going to take the brush that we weren't using to paint with, and you're just going to start applying the Mod Podge all over, especially in the middle, but even going to the edge of your, even into your paint that you've painted on. We want a good layer. And I try to, I'm not really doing great brush strokes, but make sure there's not like an excess amount of glue anywhere, if that makes sense. Just because we want the paper to be flat. And I noticed on my other ones, when I was doing them, they weren't as flat as I like them. So, I mean, you can always fix that afterward with like a pin of some sort, like a paper clip to kind of get the air bubbles out. But I try to avoid that as much as possible. So once you have the Mod Podge, and again, I try to go up as far as I can so that it sticks well. Yeah, so right in there. So once you have that down, then you're going to start putting on your page. And then when you're doing it, you're just going to kind of, like I said, try to keep it as flat as you can to avoid air bubbles, because they do make a mess. So I'm just going to kind of slowly put this on and kind of work it down as I'm going, just to kind of avoid any air bubbles as I work. Yeah. See how well that worked. Okay, so we're just gonna kind of go push it down, trying to get rid of all the air bubbles that we can. And again, if you notice you have air bubbles, we're gonna put the next layer on, and then if need be, then we will, you can always go back afterward and with like a needle or a paper clip, and you kind of just like puncture it and Mod Podge it basically to kind of get it looking good. So you can really see on mine how it's not, see, they didn't quite, I still kind of have air pockets. So I'm going to try to get as much as I can out without ripping. And then once I'm kind of satisfied and know that I'm not going to be able to get any more out with just my hands, then I'm going to put another layer of Mod Podge down just to kind of seal it in. And you kind of want to do, definitely on this one, since it's the top layer, you do want to do nice smooth brush strokes, because Mod Podge dries clear, but you can still see like the brush strokes in the end. So you just kind of want to make it as clean as possible so that when you see the streaks, they look nice, at least. And right now, like if you look at it, my palm trees that look all grayed out because it's white. But again, like I said, the Mod Podge will clear when it dries. You'll see kind of like shiny streaks with it, but the clear, it will dry clear, so that's okay. So we're gonna give that one a second just to kind of dry. Make sure I got everywhere. Yeah. Okay, and so while we're waiting for this to dry, you can go ahead and plug in your hot glue guns because the next part is going to be the rope, and the rope we're gonna attach with the hot glue. So you're kind of done with your paint and your Mod Podge for the time being. With the paint, like at the very end, you may decide that you want to go back and kind of like hit the corners again with the paint. So you might not be done with it as you want to be, but for right now, we won't need them for right now. So, and then before I forget, I don't know if any of you noticed that my edges don't look great. Kind of where like it comes up and meets the corners. Again, I'm not really too worried about that because the rope's going to hide a lot of that, and any kind of imperfections that we notice afterward, we're going to hide with our like styrofoam balls or seashells or whatnot. So it's okay if like this kind of like where it's the curve of the pizza pan, it's okay if it doesn't look super pretty because we're going to hide it. Okay, so hopefully your hot glue gun is ready. Basically what we're going to do is just put a, we're going to start, it doesn't really matter where you start in it, but basically at the curve of your pizza pan, we're just going to start with a line of hot glue. I don't like to put it all the way around because hot glue dries really fast. So maybe just like a 2-inch line of hot glue around the curve of the pizza pan. And then we're going to place our rope on that. So like I said, just like a little 2-inch line, just right here, if it wants to work. And then before it dries, we're just going to place our rope right there onto the hot glue. And push down, make sure it sticks. Like I said, hot glue dries really fast, so I'm just gonna kind of do it basically in sections so that it doesn't dry before I get the rope on there. So now I'm gonna go with my next section, and we're just gonna go all the way around the pizza pan, and then we're gonna cut off the excess. But for right now, we're just gonna go along with the hot glue and the rope. And now, if you notice, you should have a little bit left over. When you get it to the edge or where it meets again with where you started, we're going to cut it off. Okay. And then you'll probably have to like kind of re-glue where you left off. So I'm just going to kind of add a bunch of glue, push it back in there. And then any part, if you go back and you notice that, oh, it doesn't seem to be, stuck really well, you just basically are going to kind of shoot a little bit of glue down in there and kind of press just to kind of make sure that it sticks. So I don't have any spots right now that I can see that need it again, but like I said, after we're all done, you basically are just gonna, put the nozzle in there and you add a little glue and then press if there's any parts that you feel aren't quite sticking how they need to stick. So, and then once it's all dry, then you're going to kind of clean it up of all the little hot glue gun remnants. But you can wait until the very end for that. Just so we want to make sure that the hot glue has a chance to dry and we don't hurt ourselves. Like I want to take this one off, but I don't know that it's really quite dry yet. So here kind of have where the hot glue kind of dried too quickly. So I'm going to kind of add in a little right there. And then I'm just going to kind of press so that it sticks. Okay, so hopefully everybody's done with that part. So now we're going to turn our pan over. The only thing is when we turn it over this time, we kind of want to pay attention to where the top of the pan is. So actually what we're going to do before we turn it over. So the excess part that you have that you cut off your rope, we're going to actually make it a loop, and it's going to go and we're going to hot glue it on the back. And it's going to make the hanger. So you kind of want to pay attention to where the top of your pan is, because if you put it like here, I mean, when you hang it, it won't be perfectly straight. I mean, if you want to do it like that, you can. But if you don't want it if you want it to be nice and straight, just kind of pay attention to where you have your where you have the back of it. So if you see, I have them kind of like this, where this is where I'm going to want them on the back. And I just kind of double check to make sure that seems like it's in the middle, so that when it hangs, it'll hang straight. I think that's right. So yeah, okay. So then once you know you have them in the right spot, then we're going to keep them like that. I have noticed that I find it better if I mark it. So let's do that. If you don't have a pen, you could probably use, I don't know, a piece of tape or something. But I think I'll feel better if I use a pen to make sure that I get it right. So let's go and make sure it's going to be even. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And then I'm just going to mark. And again, it's the back, so I'm not too worried about it showing up and looking bad. So where my marks are, I'm just going to do a line of glue. Put that one there. And then put another line of glue on the other side. Put you there. And hold them down so you make sure that they stay. And then now we have our little hook. So before you hang it, I would give it a while to kind of set. And then if you feel like it needs more hot glue before you feel comfortable hanging it, I mean, definitely add more hot glue. It's the back, so if you have to make it look ugly, it's fine. It's the back. Nobody cares. Nobody can see it. So we're going to kind of lay it like that. And so now our next part is to basically just add the decoration. So it's whatever you want to put on there and whatever kind of came in the bag. If you notice, like I said, anywhere that you maybe cut your picture too small and you can kind of see the bottom of the pan, you can go ahead and like add some little things there. It's like I normally say, it's up to you and how you want it to look. You can add your little acrylic little ocean creatures. If you don't want to add them, you don't have to. Like, I don't know that the octopus is going to kind of work on this one, so I probably won't put the octopus on there. but you know, it's whatever you want to do. However, before you start adding the creatures, I would suggest if you're going to put salt for your sand, to do that first. And then how we're going to do that is you want to make sure that your Mod Podge is dry from when you put the picture on, or at least mostly dry. Because when I go to put my sand down here on where the beach is, so it's like the sandy beach, I'm going to use a little bit of the Mod Podge. And just where I want the sand or the salt to stick is where I'm going to add a little bit of Mod Podge. So I'm just going to add it down here. I'm not getting into this green part where the ocean starts. I'm just doing down here where the white sand beach is. Because I don't want it to be in the ocean. I just want it to be, I just want this beach to be sandy. So I'm going to add it right there. Like I said, I'm not waiting long enough. I should probably wait a little longer for the rest of it to kind of clear out, but I'm not going to. So I have my salt. This is actually a salt substitute, but it's salt. And then I'm just going to kind of gently pour it all where I have the Mod Podge. So it shouldn't stick to this part because this part's mostly dry. So I'm just going to kind of make sure that I remove it. But so now I have it just in here. And then it's hard to see it on camera, the kind of three-dimensional kind of look to it. But in person, it looks pretty cool with the sand on it. You can also try putting, or with the salt, salt. If you have any sand, you can always add the sand the same way. You're just going to put a little layer of Mod Podge, and then your sand or salt or glitter. If you have glitter, you can put that in there to make it kind of pop. It's whatever you want to put on there. If you don't want to put anything, you don't have to. I like the look of a little bit of the sand. And then we're just gonna, we don't even need to do a second layer over it. I just, enough glue basically to get it to kind of stick. And then once it's kind of dry, then you can kind of, I always like kind of like go like that, tap it just to make sure that all the stuff that didn't stick kind of comes off. So that's the layer of that. And then now I'm basically just going to start adding my sea creatures in. And for my sea creatures and my little styrofoam balls, I'm going to use the hot glue gun. So I think for my little manta ray, I'm going to put him right here. Yeah. Just kind of be careful because I'm going to be using hot glue around my fingers. So I think I'm just going to kind of put that like that. And then maybe add a little bit of glue onto the actual thing so I don't hurt myself like I did this morning. And then later on, I'll kind of go and clean up the hot glue that kind of sticking out. So now I'm going to add, I don't know if I really want this big of a seashell. It's kind of a large seashell. So yeah, it's up to you. I don't like this right here. This is where they meet. Again, I don't know how well you can see it on camera. It's not super noticeable, but I mean, it is a little bit. And so we're going to hide it. I think that's where I'll put the, so. Something over there. So now for the stencils. If you did our we had for the Father's Day, we used a stencil, and I think it worked out pretty well for the board because we used a board and then the stencil on top of it, and I think it worked out pretty well. Let me show you these ones. I didn't care for how the stencils looked on these. I feel like they bled a little bit more than with the wood. I'm thinking because the wood was maybe harder, and it was more flat because these, like, I can't really tell with this one, but they've got some air pockets in them, so I feel like the stencil couldn't stick on the pizza pan as well as I would have liked it to. So and especially because it's when I added glitter, and I don't really like the glitter either. But if you kind of notice, everything's a little blurry. It's not quite crisp as I would have liked it. This one especially, because it's got a lot of bubbles in it. And so, especially here, I really messed it up there. But it bled a little bit more than I would have liked. So I'm not going to put a stencil on mine. On this one, because I might. I'm lying. I'm going to. We'll try this one again, because I think it'll fit really. Oh yeah, okay. So I wasn't going to, but it'll fit really well right here. So so I'm going to stencil, but first I'm going to try to make sure that I don't make it uneven, because I feel like it's going to be uneven. Okay, and then how we do the stencil is usually we would tape it down, except I don't know how well it's going to tape down to this one, and I'm afraid it's going to kind of ruin the Mod Podge look if I tape it down, so I'm not going to. And then my little manta ray is a little bit in the way of the stencil, so let me cut it. You can cut your stencil. You just want to make sure that you don't cut any of the word part. So like this one, this piece that I cut off wasn't a word. It just was the edge of it. So once you have your stencil where you're going to want it, you're going to take your paint, or if you have a different color paint at home that you want to use, you can do that. The only thing is with your stencil, how you want to do it is have some paper towels, and then you're going to take your foam brush and dip it into your paint, and then you're going to remove a bunch of the paint. You really don't want a whole lot of paint on your brush, so you're going to almost remove most of the paint, and then you're going to use like a stamping type motion. You don't want to go like this. You don't want to smooth it on. You want to like jab, 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 jab. So I think it's going to bleed. We're going to try this. I'm not sure how well it's going to look because it's blue paint on the blue background, but we'll try it. Like I said, if you have a different color paint that you want to use, go ahead and use a different color paint. And again, we're just doing like a little stabbing motion. I really don't like that I can't tape it, but I really don't trust that the tape would come off, so I'm scared. But I might need to. Yeah, we're gonna tape it. Okay, so let me try taping it and make sure that it doesn't hurt it, and then I can tell you guys whether or not it'll hurt it. So let's see, taped it. Ooh. Yeah, don't tape it. Don't tape it. We're just gonna have to, I wouldn't tape it because it kind of takes off the Mod Podge. Yeah, so don't tape it if you can avoid it. We're just going to have to be super careful. Again, taking off a lot of the excess paint, and then just kind of as much as you can, just hold it down. And then how I did on one of them, how I put the glitter on there, basically just before it dried, I just poured some of the glitter on it while it was wet. So if you want to add glitter to your stencil after you've done, then you can do that too. And then when you're doing this, you're making sure that you're just going over the letters and just be careful when you get to the sides and the bottom that you don't accidentally paint onto the board off the stencil, basically. It's turned out a little bit better than the last time, except the color isn't great. So you can't really see it.